I consider this disloyal, said Mrs. Carter, her voice cold and sharp as she glared from behind her wide mahogany desk. After everything this company has done for you. Emily Ross sat opposite her, clutching her purse tightly to stop her trembling hands. The shock of being summoned to the boss's office that Tuesday morning had faded into a heavy dread. Mrs. Carter, please let me explain, Emily began, but the woman's manicured finger tapped on a printed email. Don't bother denying it, she cut in. I have confirmation you interviewed with Brightwave Solutions last Thursday. You took a half day for a dental appointment, remember? Emily's mouth went dry. That's not how it sounds. Save it, Mrs. Carter interrupted. Security will meet you at your desk. You can pack your belongings, but your building access is revoked immediately. She slid Emily's ID card across the desk. Your email has already been disabled. For a moment, Emily could only stare. 6 years of loyalty, erased in a heartbeat. She had worked late nights, missed family dinners, and brought in millions in new revenue. Yet now she was being dismissed like a thief. Taking a slow breath, she rose, smoothing her blazer. I understand, she said calmly, though her heart hammered inside her chest. Mrs. Carter's expression faltered slightly, perhaps expecting Emily to beg or cry. Instead, Emily extended her hand. I wish you and the company continued success. After a brief, uncertain pause, Mrs. Carter shook it. Good luck, Emily, she muttered, clearly unsettled by her composure. Outside, a security guard trailed her to her desk. Her co-workers peeked over cubicles, whispering in confusion as she packed her photos, notebooks, and her favorite little desk plant into a cardboard box. She smiled at them reassuringly, refusing to give Mrs. Carter the satisfaction of seeing her break down. As Emily stepped through the glass doors for the last time, the bright April sunlight hit her face. She took a deep breath, the air tasting like freedom and uncertainty. Mrs. Carter thought she was punishing her, but she was wrong. Emily's phone buzzed. A message flashed from Daniel Reed, CEO of Brightwave Solutions. Can we move our final discussion to today at 2 p.m.? A small smile spread across her lips. Perfect timing, she whispered. Everything she had built for 6 years now fit into a single box, but she had no idea this was the day her life would finally change. On the drive home, Emily's mind raced. She remembered her first day at Harbor Communications, fresh out of university with nothing but ambition. She'd started as an assistant, making coffee and taking notes during meetings. But she had worked late, learned fast, and handled the clients everyone else avoided. Within 2 years, she managed mid-tier accounts. By her 4th year, she handled Brightwave Solutions, the company's biggest client. She'd saved a contract worth millions after another employee failed. Daniel had said back then, "You're the only one who understands what we need." That memory stayed with her now, proof that her worth went far beyond Mrs. Carter's office. Emily placed the box on her kitchen counter and stared at it for a long moment. 6 years of her life reduced to office trinkets and fading memories. Her phone buzzed again, this time her best friend Laura was calling. "Emily, I just heard," Laura said, her voice filled with disbelief. "Tom told me you got fired this morning. Are you okay?" Emily sighed, sitting on a stool. "I'm still trying to process it. It all happened so fast." "Fast?" Laura snapped. "That woman has always been jealous of your success. You carried that company on your back, and she still treated you like an assistant." Emily gave a small laugh, though her chest ached. "Well, it's over now. She doesn't deserve your tears, Em," Laura continued. "You've been their top performer for years, and they never paid you fairly." Emily nodded silently, remembering every performance review, every excuse. "I asked for a raise 3 times, she said quietly. "They always said there wasn't room in the budget. But there was money for her new luxury car," Laura shot back. Emily smiled weakly. "Exactly." There was a pause before Laura added, "Maybe it's a blessing. You've got Brightwave interested, right?" Emily's pulse quickened. "Actually, Daniel wants to meet today. He messaged right after I left the building." See, Laura said proudly. Sometimes God clears the path for better things. After ending the call, Emily glanced around her apartment. It was small but cozy, filled with soft light and the scent of lavender candles. She walked to her window, watching the city hum beneath the bright afternoon sky. The thought of starting fresh both scared and thrilled her. For years, she had tied her worth to a company that barely saw her. Now she could finally rewrite her story. She changed into a navy suit, touched up her makeup, and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back didn't look broken, she looked ready. "You can do this, Emily," she whispered to her reflection. "It's your turn now." The Bright Wave Solutions headquarters stood tall in downtown Seattle, all glass walls and silver edges reflecting the sunlight. Emily stepped out of the elevator onto the 25th floor, her heart pounding as she spotted Daniel waiting by the reception. "Emily, good to see you again," he said warmly, shaking her hand. His gray hair and easy smile gave him an air of calm authority. "Thank you for meeting me on short notice," she replied. "Of course," Daniel said, leading her into a modern office with wide windows and minimalist decor. "Let's skip the small talk. I heard about what happened this morning. I'm sorry it went down that way." Emily nodded, folding her hands. "I suppose it was bound to happen eventually. I was planning to give notice soon." Daniel smiled faintly. "Then let's take this as perfect timing. We've admired your professionalism for years, and frankly, I think Harbor Communications made a terrible mistake." He slid a folder toward her. "This isn't an interview, Emily. It's an offer. Director of Client Strategy." Her eyes widened as she scanned the details. The salary was nearly double what she had earned before. "Daniel, this is incredible," she whispered. "No, Emily," he said kindly. "This is what you've always deserved." Emily blinked back the sting of emotion as she looked at the papers before her. "I don't know what to say," she murmured. "Say yes," Daniel replied with a gentle laugh. "But take the night to think about it if you need to. We both know you're the right fit." She smiled, a mix of gratitude and disbelief washing over her. "Thank you, Daniel. Truly. You earned this," he said, his tone firm but kind. "We value results here, and respect the people who make them happen." Emily shook his hand, realizing in that moment that she was finally being seen for the professional she truly was. When she got home that evening, Emily placed the offer letter on her kitchen table, still unopened. She poured herself a glass of water and sat in silence. Her phone vibrated with a string of messages. Co-workers from Harbor Communications had already heard the news. "I can't believe she fired you," one message read. "Everyone's upset. You didn't deserve that." Another text came from Tom, the IT guy. "Mrs. Carter called an emergency meeting. Said you were terminated for disloyalty. Everyone's furious." Emily smiled faintly. "Loyalty," she whispered to herself. That's the word she used to justify betrayal. The next morning the phone rang again. "Emily Ross?" A calm older woman's voice asked. "Yes, speaking. This is Margaret Dawson from the Board of Harbor Communications. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow. It seems there's been a misunderstanding regarding your termination." Emily paused, her eyebrows lifting. "A misunderstanding?" "Yes," Margaret continued. "Victoria, Mrs. Carter, acted without consulting us. We'd like to discuss your employment and possible reinstatement." Emily exhaled softly. "I appreciate the call, but I've already accepted another offer." There was a silence on the line. "May I ask where?" "I'd rather not say," Emily replied politely. Margaret's voice grew cautious. "If this is about salary, I'm sure the board can revisit your compensation." Emily gave a soft laugh. "It's not about money anymore, Mrs. Dawson. It's about respect." There was a pause before Margaret said, "I understand, but please meet with us tomorrow morning at 9. Even if it's just for closure." Emily hesitated, then agreed. "All right, I'll come in. But to be clear, I'm not negotiating a return." "Understood," Margaret said. Thank you, Emily. As the call ended, Emily leaned back, shaking her head. The irony was almost poetic. The same people who ignored her for years were now desperate to have her back. The following morning, Emily walked into the lobby of Harbor Communications, this time as a visitor. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. The receptionist, Sophie, froze when she saw her. "Emily, you're back," she whispered. "Just for a meeting with the board," Emily said with a calm smile. Sophie lowered her voice. "Everyone's been saying what happened was wrong. You were the heart of this place." "Thank you, Sophie," Emily replied warmly before signing in. She entered the elevator and took a deep breath. She wasn't coming to reclaim her job. She was coming to reclaim her dignity. Margaret Dawson was already waiting in the conference room, a poised woman in her 60s with a silver bob and the calm confidence of authority. "Miss Ross," she said, standing to shake Emily's hand. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," Emily replied, taking a seat. Margaret opened a slim folder and began reading. 6 years of stellar performance, multiple awards, and 0 disciplinary issues. "I must say, I was shocked to hear about your dismissal." Emily kept her tone even. "The reason given was disloyalty." Margaret looked up sharply. "That's not a policy term we use. I see no documentation to justify this termination." Margaret closed the file and folded her hands. "The board would like to correct this mistake. We're offering you reinstatement with the title Senior Account Director and a 15% raise from your previous salary." Emily smiled faintly. "That's generous but unnecessary. I've already moved on. To Brightwave Solutions, I assume?" Margaret asked with a knowing look. Emily didn't confirm, but her silence said enough. Margaret sighed. "Mrs. Carter's impulsive decision has cost us greatly. We understand Brightwave represents nearly a third of our revenue." "That's correct," Emily replied, her voice steady. "They were my account." Margaret nodded slowly, her tone softening. "May I ask you one question before you go? What could we have done differently to keep you?" Emily thought for a long moment before answering. "Recognize my value before I had to leave to find it," she said simply. "Loyalty is earned, not demanded." Margaret smiled sadly. "A fair answer." She stood, offering her hand. "Thank you for your honesty, Miss Ross. Whatever lies ahead, I wish you the best." Emily shook her hand, feeling lighter than she had in years. The meeting wasn't about going back, it was about walking out on her own terms. Outside, Emily paused in front of the glass doors. She looked at the logo she'd once been proud to represent and smiled faintly. For 6 years, she had given this place everything. Her ideas, her energy, her loyalty. But today, she walked away with something far more valuable, her self-respect. As she stepped into the sunlight, she whispered, "Goodbye, Harbor." Her phone vibrated with a new message from Daniel. "Welcome to the team, Emily. See you Monday morning." A rush of relief and gratitude filled her. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Monday came with new beginnings. Emily arrived early at Brightwave Solutions, her heart light with anticipation. Daniel greeted her with a warm handshake. "Welcome aboard, Director Ross," he said proudly. "Your office is ready, real windows this time." She laughed. "That's already an upgrade." Her new team gathered to meet her, 5 bright professionals eager to work under her leadership. "We're lucky to have you," one of them said. As she looked around the sleek modern space filled with possibilities, Emily realized something profound. Mrs. Carter had tried to ruin her, but instead she had set her free. By midweek, Emily had settled into her new rhythm at Brightwave. Her office overlooked the city skyline, a view she'd once dreamed about while trapped in endless harbor meetings. She spent her mornings reviewing strategies, meeting her team, and outlining new partnerships. Daniel often dropped by for quick check-ins. "You're already making waves," he told her one afternoon with a grin. "The board's impressed." Emily smiled. "I'm just doing what I love." But she knew her next task would test her composure. Brightwave's contract with Harbor Communications was due for renewal next month, and she was now responsible for overseeing that decision. The following day, Daniel called her into a conference room filled with Brightwave's senior executives. "Emily," he began, "we'd like your input before we finalize our next agency contracts." The chief marketing officer added, "Given your first-hand experience, your perspective on Harbor's reliability will help us decide." Emily sat down, keeping her tone professional. "I'm happy to help, of course." The CFO leaned forward. "Our recent reports show delays and inconsistent quality from Harbor, except on your previous campaigns. What do you suggest?" Emily paused, her heart steady. She could easily end Harbor's biggest account with a single recommendation. But she remembered Daniel's earlier words about professionalism and respect. She smiled calmly. "I think we should evaluate Harbor just like any other partner, based on performance, service, and transparency. No bias, no personal emotion." Daniel's eyes softened. "That's why we hired you." For a brief moment, she felt a flicker of pride. The decision wouldn't be made in anger or revenge. It would be made on merit. And she had no doubt that Harbor's shortcomings would speak for themselves. The meeting concluded with the executives thanking her for her fairness, unaware of the poetic justice quietly unfolding. 2 days later, Daniel knocked on her door, a faint smile on his lips. "The team finalized the review," he said, handing her a printout. "We're moving forward with Lumen Creative for our next campaign." Emily glanced at the report. It was official. Harbor Communications had lost their largest client. She exhaled slowly, not with glee, but with deep, quiet satisfaction. "Thank you for letting me know," she said softly. "You handled this with grace," Daniel replied. "No drama, no bitterness, just results. That's real leadership." Emily smiled. "Sometimes the best revenge is just doing your job well." That same afternoon, Daniel forwarded her the formal notice email being sent to Harbor. It was concise and professional. "After reviewing our evolving brand needs, Brightwave Solutions will be transitioning our account to Lumen Creative, effective immediately. All materials should be transferred by end of business Friday. Emily Ross, our Director of Client Strategy, will oversee the transition." Emily stared at the message, imagining Mrs. Carter's face as she read it. The irony was too perfect. The woman who had fired her for interviewing elsewhere had now lost the company's biggest client to the very person she dismissed. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a LinkedIn notification. Sophie, Harbor's receptionist, had sent her a connection request with a message. "The office is chaos. Victoria's been in meetings all day. Everyone's updating their resumes. Karma works fast." Emily smiled faintly. She typed back only, "Thank you for your kindness during my time there. Wishing you all the best." No bitterness, no gloating, just peace. Because true victory didn't need noise. It lived in the calm confidence of someone who had risen above betrayal and proved her worth beyond any doubt. In the weeks that followed, Emily flourished in her new role. Her team respected her, her ideas were heard, and her work-life balance returned. Every project she led exceeded expectations. When Daniel stopped by one morning with coffee in hand, he said, "You've transformed this department in a month. The team feels inspired." Emily laughed softly. "I think they just needed someone who believed in them." But deep inside she knew, she too had needed someone to believe in her. And when no one at Harbor did, she finally chose to believe in herself. 1 year later, Emily sat on a Brightwave stage at a leadership summit, sharing her journey with young professionals. "What advice would you give to someone who feels undervalued at work?" an audience member asked. Emily smiled thoughtfully. "Know your worth before they force you to prove it," she said. "Loyalty is a beautiful quality, but it should never come at the cost of self-respect." The audience applauded, and she felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. The pain she had once carried had transformed into wisdom, and her story had become a lesson for others. That evening, as she returned to her apartment, Emily stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer across the skyline. Her reflection stared back at her, The same woman who once walked out of Harbor Communications with a cardboard box in her arms. Only now she stood taller, freer, stronger. She whispered softly, "You made it, Emily." Her phone buzzed again, another message from Daniel. "Congratulations on the summit speech. Proud to have you leading with us." She smiled. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was victory, quiet, earned, and complete. Looking back, Emily realized that Mrs. Carter had unintentionally given her a gift, the push she needed to discover her true potential. Getting fired hadn't been the end of her story. It was the turning point that led to everything she had dreamed of. The hurt had faded, replaced by gratitude and self-assurance. As she turned off the lights and prepared for bed, her thoughts were calm. Sometimes life's harshest endings are just disguised beginnings. And for Emily Ross, the woman once labeled disloyal, the truth had never been clearer. She was never disloyal to anyone. She had simply chosen to be loyal to herself.